Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani. Welcome to StudyIQ and I welcome you in this daily Hindu analysis video. In the evening PIB videos come, in the morning these videos come. Both are having important MCQs. Do not leave the PIB lesson. More than 10 questions I'm discussing on a daily basis with much depth, and in the same way I'm discussing important questions, facts and analysis here in this particular lesson. So both are very crucial for you for the UPSC Prelims and Mains, both the stages. These are the numbers there you can call and you can ask for these pen drive courses. You can visit the website also. The 60% off is also going on for all these courses. All are updated one and very important for the aspirants. Burqa, niqab, hijab, chador, all are worn by Muslim females and it's a part of their culture. So these questions from the culture, they may appear, and it was totally banned in Sri Lanka after the attack on church. So this was in highlight. So D all would be the correct answer here. Next, Menaka Guruswamy and Arundhati Kaju, they are Supreme Court judges and they played very important part in the 377 case, and they have been very much vocal about these rights issue of the LGBT communities and other social issues also. So these both are Supreme Court judges and they have international recognition also. Okay, next, Bharat Script, unified script for 9 Indian languages. You see, there is always a smaller difference, okay, and you will need to notify that it is not Bharat Script, it is Bharati Script. The name is Bharati and it is a common script for India for 9 Indian languages. They have developed, IIT Madras team has developed this, and the method that was applied, that was OCR scheme. They may ask you about the OCR also. What is that? Optical character recognition. And it has been going on for years, and in this particular recognition technology, they observe these important text, these important symbols, designs, and they read them in a digital format, and perfect codes are associated with these text and the designs on both. So Professor V. Srinivasa Chakravarti, he led this IIT Madras team and they actually developed this common script for India. So only 2 is the correct answer. First is wrong because it is Bharati script. Next, India is not the largest producer of wheat. Largest producer is China. And Punjab is not the leading producer state. UP is the leading producer state. And Kharif crop, it is not a Kharif crop. Kharif crop is from June to September, October. Okay, so that is the period of Kharif crops. It is actually a very important Rabi crop, and they start sowing the Rabi crop from October and it goes till February, March sometimes. So it is the time of harvesting. So all the statements are wrong. So D none is the correct answer, and recently they raised the custom duty on wheat, and a very important question internationally that is asked, that is spring wheat and winter wheat. What is that? You see, according to latitudes, there are differences in the temperature, average temperature. India is counted as a tropical country, and half of the part of it that is totally tropical according to the latitude. Tropic of Cancer goes through its center area, and you see above it there are higher latitudes, and as we are growing it as a Rabi crop in the winter season, that means specific temperature conditions are there at that time. So around 20 degrees centigrade temperature at 15 to 20 that is needed here. And with some countries, you take the example of Canada and USA. Canada is in the northern part and USA is southern to it. So Canada is way colder as a country, and normal temperature that is below 10 degrees centigrade. So only during the springtime the temperature rises up to 20 degrees centigrade. So at that time they grow wheat. So that is called spring wheat, okay, in Canada. And in USA, in the normal times, in the winters, they get these temperatures around 15 to 20 degrees centigrade on an average. So they are growing it as a winter wheat. And in India also, we are growing winter wheat. And it is not there much in the southern part of India because that is on an average warmer area. And only in the northern part of India, mainly in the northern states, it's way cold conditions in the winter time. So it is winter wheat. Okay, so that's the condition with wheat. So they may ask you about the winter wheat and spring wheat. Next, I asked this question regarding ILO. Okay, International Labour Organization. So I'm sorry for that. I could not mention it. I forgot that thing. It is the only tripartite UN agency established in 1919. That's correct. It's the first UN's specialized agency. It's a UN specialized agency right now, but it was not established as a specialized agency. It was under League of Nations where it was established. It was not a United Nations in 1919. United Nations appeared in 1945 as a successor to the League of Nations. So this statement would be wrong. Headquarters is there in Geneva. It is not in New York. Geneva, Switzerland. Okay. So both are wrong statements. D is the answer. Next. Cities present between Ganga and Yamuna. We call this region as Doab region, between two rivers. So leaving Karnal, Meerut, Roorkee and Aligarh, these three are located in this place of 134 is the correct answer here. You see, Karnal is here. It is a Yamuna river making the boundary of UP and Haryana, and then it is coming towards New Delhi and then going in this direction towards Agra and Mathura and all. Here it is Haridwar and the river Ganga, and you see the cities like Roorkee is here, and it is between both these rivers. Haridwar is here, so it is located on the banks, and Deoband, a historical place, Meerut, a very important place, Bulandshahr, important city here, and Aligarh, famous for locks and all. So these are located in this Doab region. Okay, so they may ask you about these things. Next, these are the words that I found today, and now we are going to talk about the articles. We will discuss this article important for the economy, GS paper 2 and 3 both would be important here. We will discuss this article regarding the Washington's pressure on these countries like India, China, Turkey for the Iran imports and all. So important for GS paper 2. Certainly we will discuss that. Off the mark, in this unfortunate case where in Telangana more than 20 suicides they were committed by students, and after the intermediate exams result, you see these kids in the teenage ages, they are going through a lot of chaos, we must say, because you see the time is much more difficult today. It is the internet age, and it is the age of confusion. They are finding their important existence in the society, because it is that starting age where they look for the recognition, and too much pressure. You see, parents are also at mistake, society is also at mistake. It is not only the system's mistake, although the prime culprit is the system here, because they deployed a private agency there and their software was faulty, and they did not give marks to some students, and one girl was there, scored 99 in reality, but she was given a 0 mark there and she was failed, and many students were passed but then marks were not displayed. So this is how they created a mess there, and many students lost their lives out of this pressure, because you see this is the tendency that is very much frustrating, and that is actually depressing. And you see our parents sometimes they do not beat their kids and they do not say anything, but it's an emotional and aspirational pressure that the kids feel, and they are not able to fulfill these things sometimes. So at that time when they fail, at that time parents, they cannot control their anger, they cannot control their frustration, so they say something to these kids. Sometimes it is not in this case, but normally it happens, and sometimes where they are not saying anything, and these kids themselves, they are taking a lot of pressure and they are living a life of depression for some days, and they commit suicides. And this is the most unfortunate thing for the society. Why this kind of pressure? Why this kind of rat race we are involved in? Because this world is having a lot of varieties, so the careers will have so many careers we can have, and a basic education we should take till graduation, and we should decide about our interests. Otherwise these pressures will keep coming. You see, in Indonesia we recently heard that many suicides, they were committed because of the work pressure, and these are the people, they do not love their jobs, and they are doing it out of responsibilities, out of a lot of pressure. And when some trouble is there in the job, when they are thrown out of the job, or maybe these kind of thing happens, and in this case of education, when they are failed for some reason, they are not able to crack some examination, and you see these days many cases where just normal students, they are cracking examinations out of hard work, because they do not have that particular aspiration, and their parents, they do not have those kind of expectations. But brilliant students, they have all kinds of expectations. So this is happening more with the brilliant students when they are failing. So this is the case we need to discuss in much depth, and the society needs to review its ways, its methods, because everything is changing. Data is very fast. It is in MBPS these days, and where it was not even KBPS before 10 to 15 years, there were not even mobiles at that age. So you just suppose the change in the scenario, you suppose that the change in the society, everything is changing, and it is affecting our minds, our psychology, our approaches are totally changing. But still we are stuck on those low risk methods, where we think that go with a flow where all other people are going, and it would be minimize the risk. But it is the most risky thing, because it is taking lives. And why? Because we are not innovative. We are following just established paths, and which are already failing. So that's the case. Transparency road. In this case, China is softening its stand, and it is saying that we will not bring any kind of negative impact on our bilateral relations. We will not spoil them because of that Masood Azhar case reason, and because of this BRI initiative. And all, they are hopeful about the BRI involvement from Indian side, because it is very much supportive for their aim, that anyhow and at any condition, if India joins BRI, then it would be most useful stage for them. So they will not be involved again in any kind of negative escalation like Doklam and all, and they're saying that we will not spoil our relationship, and we will be hopeful, and we will try our best and to bring India on board. And even they have said today that they may take a decision regarding the Masood Azhar case, and very soon they may withdraw their veto, and they may also support in declaring Masood Azhar as an international terrorist. So that's the case. That means it's a positive vibe between India and China relations, and they are softening their stand. So it is regarding that. These articles are not important for us, and let's start with the employment oriented economic policy. All issues which are raised in this particular article, Balakrishnan is saying that after the elections, the first thing that we need to do is the economic policy reviews and the macroeconomic policy reviews, because the biggest issues, the NPA crisis, banking crisis, the investment issues, jobless growth, these are haunting our future. And if very soon we are not going to take war scale like efforts, then we may lose a lot here, because the situation is so bad that we are aspiring for the demographic dividend, but the job creation is totally stuck. And here in 2012 and 13, it was a condition of high inflation. So at that time, government went for the RBI and government, they combinedly went for this inflation targeting, and this issue started from that time, and it continued with the next government, and they consolidated this particular move. They brought MPC, and they totally target the inflation. They embarked on OMOs, and they embarked on high interest rates. So these are all measures to control the inflation. So this is all they focused on, and too much focus was given on fiscal consolidation and the inflation targeting. So here, out of these efforts to consolidate fiscal matters, they lost financial stability in our country. And in this unique condition where inflation is low, wholesale price index is almost zero, and the retail inflation kept also on lower side. So in this unique condition where all these things are low, but the growth is not boosted up, and the jobs are not there, and investment is totally stuck. So what to do in these situations where they were bringing down these interest rates and all, and they were raising these interest rates because of the high inflation condition, and now they are bound to bring them back. So they are just hovering with this condition, and the right steps they are not able to take. Banking crisis is on, and the NPAs are rising with these companies, private and public, both kind of investments, they are stuck. So they have to review their whole policy stand, and the sharp increases in interest rates, that can trigger distress. Certainly that can trigger distress, but which way they should go? because today is not the condition of high inflation. So today they are actually going towards a negative side of the growth of this interest rate, means they are lowering these interest rates, and more they are hoping in the near future. But you see, very soon we are going to have the condition, the inflation would certainly rise. Before the election they are controlling it, and this is the intentional controlling, because the prices of the crude oil, they are rising, and they will certainly rise after these sanctions and all. 10% of our demands, they are stuck, so we will need to and adjust these issues. So inflation is certainly going to rise after the election for sure, nobody can deny that. And earlier they were saying that things are not in our control, and we have not actually had this role in pricing of the petrol. But now the prices are high in the international market, but the prices are not rising in the domestic market. So at a very unfortunate time, these sanctions and waivers and all these issues have come, but certainly the inflation is going to rise. So what they are going to do, how they are going to manage the situation where investment is needed, and growth in the jobs, that is not coming. So the whole review of the policy, the economic stand, macroeconomic situation, they need to assess again, because there are many failures right now. The crisis of ILF how it collapsed, and how they had to support it because it was in the too big to fail in category, and they could not let it fall. But these things are really putting a lot of stress on RBI. Okay. And the issue of wrath of financial market, where RBI is consistently telling some things, but the autonomy is an important issue, and government, how much it is listening to RBI, that is a different case. So anyhow, they cannot jeopardize the financial stability of this country. That is the main message here. And the writer says these kind of trends actually they have been there for quite some time, and with many countries, means their governments are struggling a lot, their central banks are struggling a lot, because the growth is not there in the international platform, and self-serving, fickle, capable of causing great harm, and speculations in the international market. These are the characteristics with the present governments these days. If we take example of Mexico or Southeast Asian countries and all, so these things are happening. So entire gamut of macroeconomic policy in India needs rethinking. Okay, and heated public debates on job creation, and link between macroeconomic policy and employment. You see, these issues are not being discussed heavily before elections. All we are discussing Pakistan and all these security issues, what's happening there. We are not discussing a very basic thing, that is economy. Nobody is discussing that thing, and very false messages are being spread on WhatsApp and Facebook and all. So these things are not going to help, and false claims will not going to help. And the data is a bigger issue. If the data is not there, they cannot manage economy in any way. They cannot manage the unemployment situation in any way. So they need real information, and all these things should come to public also, so that the experts may help here. But in the same way, if they are going to go ahead after elections also, then it is going to be a big problem. And as a solution for the job creation, the writer suggests that job creation can be spurred with schemes like Narega. Issues are there of the payments, they need to be resolved. Next, this Narega scheme that can be brought up to urban area also, because in municipal bodies and all, they need laborers, they need a lot of manpower there, because the issues of garbage, the issues of the management of cities, the situation of the waste management and all, they are really very scary for the cities. So this can be a great help. In the rural areas, asset creation was the main goal. Here it would not be the asset creation, it would be additionally and mainly the issue of municipal bodies and their help. So this can bring jobs to these poor people, and it can manage cities in an effective way. Okay, so that's the thing. If they can toil in the rural areas, in sunlight, in rains and all, and without earning much, so they will certainly be hopeful in cities where they can earn good money, and they can get the job, and the distress would be lowered in their life. Okay, so these are the points here raised by the writer. The situation since 2013, the inflation has been our main goal, so that should not be there too much. Okay, macroeconomic policy he is targeting here. Extending Narega to urban areas, I explained to you, it's a major solution that they need to follow here. And macroeconomic policy is the thing. With that, a thorough review of how the Naregas works on ground is necessary. It has given the example of Kerala situation where some mismanagement we saw, and you see how mismanagement can declare a scheme unnecessary and can declare that unwanted. That's the case here. You see, the scheme is very important, but the implementation in some areas, that is problematic. What happened in Kerala, they used Narega workers by the road side, the vegetation was there, and they said that clear this vegetation and dump it anywhere. So they cleared that area, but they dumped this garbage at some other place. So it was no meaning of employing these people. These were at job for some time, but some other trouble was created. So in a way, the assessment followed, and they said that it created a problem, and the Narega scheme is no more working here, and it is not useful because it is not adding to any capacity. So in this way, we are going to manage these manpower and all. So there would not be any help. So we need to bring a positivity into our working also, and innovation we need to bring here. And Naregas should target the waste dotting our countryside, and when extended to urban areas should aid municipal waste management efforts. So that's the main message, and this is how it can be realized to its goal, that is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee, and it can bring to urban areas also, because the bigger number of poor people, they are living in urban areas today. Next, pipe dream, how it can be a pipe dream for USA? Because it is targeting unilaterally big countries like India, China and Turkey here. And you see some issues are there with ICTs. India only is in a way isolated here. How? Because China is gonna resist, it is gonna defy everything that is coming as a pressure from USA side. It is a bigger rival and it cannot bow down to these kind of pressures. It is going to import from Iran, and Iran will certainly do that. So if the sanctions would follow, so it is going to be a big problem. So China is not going to compromise in this situation. And what about the Turkish country? You see, Turkey has been confronting America a lot because of the Syria condition. Because Americans raised this YPG group, and these are the Kurdish groups, and they fought bravely in the Syria condition with ISIS. That was the case, a legitimate case. But these groups are problematic for Turkey. Turkey has declared them as international terrorists. So in this case also, and Turkey does not want any presence of America in the region. And although it's a NATO ally, but in the case of S-400 missile defense system, which it procured from Russia, there also America threatened with the sanctions. So in all the cases, Turkey is going to defy this move. And where a Syria issue is there, Iran has all the stakes in Syria. Iran has supported Lebanon groups, and here Houthis in Yemen. So everywhere Iran is at confrontation with America indirectly. So Iran and Turkey, they will be on same page in these issues, and combinedly they will defy these sanctions. And you see, these sanctions, the next step, if these sanctions are not working, next step would be the missile strikes, maybe by America, by Israel to Iran facilities and all these groups. And Iran again is going to retaliate with that, with the attack on the Saudi Arabian facilities, Israel facilities, and America's important places. So this can bring to a major war situation in West Asia in a very near future, because the sanctions, these are very much pressurizing. And how to deal with this situation? Because the basic need is the oil, and countries are dependent on that. So how can you say these kind of things? And you see, the Iran's position is also very much vulnerable. When sanctions would be there, then Iran is certainly going to work on its nuclear facilities, and it is going to raise its capacity in all possible ways. It will not stop. And certainly when it is sure to Iran that all are against us, so we will raise our capacities and we will fight to our soul. So this is a really scary situation. If these kind of developments we see in the future, then this is a very sensitive thing. All countries should take part in this major diktat, and there must be a review in this particular sanction. India has asked Mark Pompeo for these waivers and all, but they are not heeding to this issue. Sushma Swaraj called to the Secretary of America, and they said no, we cannot compromise on that situation. So America is very much stern on this issue. And here writer says, when they are targeting that Iranian oil export would come to zero, Beijing is firmly opposed to unilateral sanctions, as it fears that one day it may be subjected to similar treatment if they are bringing these sanctions on Iran. So China is also a big rival, and next target would certainly be China, because a lot of trade wars we have seen, and all these things are about to counter China, whatever is happening in the Indo-Pacific region. So because of the Indo-Pacific region, and we are very much close to USA today, we are actually complying with these sanctions, and we are not defying them much the way Turkey and China are defying that. So in a way we are different from their stance. And you see, here we are losing some things. We had discussed the issue of Chabahar port, and as I told you, we have invested a lot in Chabahar. It's very crucial for us. We have access to Afghanistan now. We would not need Pakistan here. And if now all these sanctions would follow, and Iran is threatening that I would stop every move from Strait of Hormuz, that is between the Saudi Peninsula, the Oman region is there, and the Bandar Abbas port of Iran is there, south to Iran. So here is Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea. So that is joined, and the Gulf of Oman is there. So this is Strait of Hormuz here, and if Iran is saying that I am going to stop everything as a movement from this area, so it is going to be a big problem for all the countries. And if India is going towards America more, then certainly Iran would be hostile to us. Till now, Iran is very much in a cooperation, and it is expecting a lot from India, and the relations are really good till now. But now what is going to happen, they will have to decide about that. And as I told you, Iran will work on its capacity. That is again a great threat to the world peace. And you see, it's not a small country, the nuclear power it is. And India's bid to enter nuclear supplier group, that is supported by America. So these all things are actually at contradiction. You see, every development is against our move today. Okay, US is India's largest trading partner and leading source of foreign investment. So that is also the big case. The issue of NSG is also the big case, because we could not have got this nuclear supplier group membership because of the China's stand. But here, if some things are improving between India and China, so America is also a supportive country here. But Iran would not like India's move here, and Turkey also. So all these issues are very much complex, and how they are going to solve this issue. You see, America is the problem creator here. For sure, America is the problem creator. And these confrontational policies may please Israel and Saudi Arabia, but it can well become a prelude to another major war in West Asia. If Iran is stressed, Saudi Arabia is happy, Israel is happy. But all these groups, and after the Syria situation, and these groups of Houthis and Hamas, these Lebanon groups and all, so they will confront these issues with Israel and Saudi Arabia. Houthis are already fighting with Saudi Arabia, and those Lebanon groups and all, they are against Israel's stand. Hamas is also very much against it. So this issue is going to be very, very complex, and many terror groups, they may also be involved here. Taliban has good contacts with Iran today, and the extension of these issues, Afghanistan is sensitive, America's the Pakistan's condition is very sensitive, and America's condition is very weak in South Asia policy. So this may develop into a major war-like situation. So these things are not good, and America should see these things again. Okay, this is all given here. Next, progress in UN listing of Azhar, says China. I have explained to you this UNSC, the UN Security Council, this particular sanctions committee, 1267, this number you should remember. They may ask you about it. It was started after 2001, when they wanted Laden, and they decided to declare all these groups as a terrorist groups and international terrorists, and they wanted to put all kinds of curbs, financial curbs and all these things on these terror financing and all these terror groups. So they started this UNSC 1267 resolution, and according to it, they are gonna declare Masood Azhar. They already brought this move, and it was by France, America, UK and all these countries, but China defied it, and China used its veto, and now China says that it may change its stand here. So China says on the listing issue, China is still working with the relevant parties, and we are in contact with all relevant parties within 1267 committee, and I believe with the joint efforts of all the parties, this will be properly resolved. So very soon we may see this stand of China that Masood Azhar is declared as international terrorist, and China may do this because of the Belt and Road Initiative issue. Next, Article 239A and 239AA. Read about all these articles of Constitution. These are about Union Territories. Article 239AA is regarding the Delhi's NCT area, and 239A only, that is for Union Territories. You see, there were many allegations against Kiran Bedi, who is the Lieutenant Governor in Puducherry and Delhi. These both territories, they are having legislative assemblies, so there are elected governments in these areas. So there is a lot of confrontation here, and LG is not having much power in Puducherry. This is the statement by Madras High Court, because it is not the same condition as there in Delhi, because Delhi is the capital region and many issues are there. So we can not allow those kind of central restrictions or the command of LG in Puducherry area also. That is said by Madras High Court. So when some interventions were there publicly, and some important issues of officials and their administration and all, they were coming as a problem between the Chief Minister and the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Kiran Bedi. Then this was to be resolved here, and the articles which are important here, that are 239A and 239AA. So read about them, and remember, AA is regarding Delhi, and 239AA imposes several restrictions on the legislature of the Delhi, but 239A, that puts less restrictions here. Next, NSEL, National Spot Exchange Limited. If we learn about it first, NSEL was India's first electronic commodity spot exchange that was established in view of the Prime Minister's vision to create a single market across the country. You see, Spot Exchange Limited and Commodities Exchange it is. You see, on the spot, these things are bought and sold, and it is like the stock exchange markets where we buy and sell these shares and all, and it is the Spot Exchange Limited. It is about the commodities like agriculture produces. There are also the commodities. There used to be a Forward Market Commission, FMC, that is now merged with SEBI in 2015, and it was about to deal with the forward contracts and all, and they were dealing with these agricultural commodities and their selling and buying. So those were some good practices, but now the management is there with SEBI. So in 2002 and 3 economic survey, Government of India recommended setting up this national level integrated market for agricultural products, as did the Planning Commission. Here what they were doing, they were assigning contracts, and they were deciding about the deals that after some days, on a fixed date, on a fixed price, we will buy this particular commodity, and this much would be the consignment. So this is how farmers were safe, because their produces, they were booked for the selling, and maybe they were getting lesser prices, but there was a surety of selling. So these markets are very, very important. And you see, NSEL commenced operation providing an electronic trading platform in October 2008, and simultaneously as many 6 state governments issued license under the model agriculture produce market committees, because they were dealing with the agricultural producers. Okay, so this was the issue, and FMC was appointed as a designated agency to regulate these spot exchanges, but now FMC is merged with SEBI. So this was important for us from the examination point of view. Now the news is that NSEL and FTIL merger. FTIL is a company, and now it is called Moon Technologies Limited, and NSEL is by the government. So Supreme Court sets aside government's decision of this particular merger between these two different entities. Supreme Court says it's violative of the right to equality of Article 14, and it is ultra vires to the Companies Act, because a big scam was exposed here of 5,600 crore rupees. It hit National Sport Exchange Limited, and now this decision of the government, central government, that is under focus, because Section 396 of Companies Act is there, and the provisions of this merger, these are against these norms. So these are complex issues, and something important for the examination that would follow in some articles. So here the complexities are not important for us. Important is Companies Act is the most important act, and it came up in 1956. Next act came up in 2013. So latest one is for 2013. So they may ask you how many acts regarding companies were there. So NSEL I have explained to you what kind of body is it, and FTIL is a other limited company. Next, core sector. There are 8 important sectors here, 8 core industries we may call it, and coal, steel, electricity, and these fertilizers, oil refineries and all. These are core sectors, and they account for around 40% industrial output. So that's a huge thing. And you see, after 5 months they are getting a good growth. Cement sector saw the strongest rebound in March 19. Every month these data are there. CSO releases these temporary data in IIP index and all, and you see annual status of industries is also launched after 1 year. So every year we have ASI report by Ministry of Statistics, and the IIP index is released every month. And wholesale price index, that's a different thing. There are categories in WPI of primary article and the manufactured items and all. So there also these things are important, but it is about the core sector and the core industries that they are getting good growth here. Coal also accelerated here, and steel sector saw growth for full year, and these respective growths you can see the numbers are given. So this is the temporary data, but the issue is that before election they are getting some growth here, which is not coming in many sectors. Now GST, there is an important software for GST management, that is GST Network, created and developed by Infosys Technologies and maintained by NIC, National Informatic Center. Okay, NIC, you see in the government websites always you have this suffix that nic.in. Okay, many times you see this extension, and this is National Informatic Center. It's a very important body under the government's management, and a GST network they had developed. And you see the many cases we saw of people's non-compliance because they were not understanding the GSTN issue after the GST was implemented in 17. So this is all about the GSTN. This is the most important software platform where they manage all the situation. So this portal is accessible to the tax authorities for tracking down every transaction, and while taxpayers have the ability to connect for their tax returns. So they may ask you about that, and always remember GST is related to indirect tax system, and IT department is related to direct tax system, and that is coming under the CBDT, Board for Direct Taxes, and that GSTN is a different issue. So these two are different bodies, but both are related to taxes and revenues for the government, but one is for indirect tax, one is for direct tax. And now they are going to share information, they are going to facilitate the exchange of this information between authorities, so that this agreement would be facilitating all the smoothness in the taxation system of India. Next, regarding the painted stork, it's not endangered, it's only nearly threatened. So this news was there from Tamil Nadu that 68 painted storks, they died, and 65 of them were juveniles. So these critically endangered species and animals, plants, they are very, very important this year. This year we have seen important information that many species, they are on verge of extinction, and more than 1 million they are on the verge of extinction in all over the world. And in India, many of them, around 41%, they are very much endangered. So these issues will remain important here, but this painted stork only found in India and some Indochina region in the eastern part. So it's a very important one. And these wetland birds and all, they are always asked by UPSC. Next, Muslim Brotherhood. This group started in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna in Egypt. Main center is there in the Egypt, and main force is also there with these bodies and all, which are there located in Egypt. So Society of Muslim Brothers, or we call it Muslim Brotherhood. Mohammad Morsi came in 2012 as the new president when elections happened after 3 decades, where Hosni Mubarak was toppled, and Mohammad Morsi came in Egypt, but for 1 year only he could survive there, and then coup happened and next government was found. Now Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is the president of Egypt. Many constitutional amendments, many new proposals, referendums are going on in Egypt, so many things are changing. But this issue may be asked that Muslim Brotherhood, now US is thinking about to declare it as a terrorist organization. Many countries already they have declared it as a terrorist organization. Bahrain, Egypt, Russia, Syria, Saudi Arabia and UAE, they have declared it already a terror group. So now USA is also gonna go on that path. So they may ask you about that. And you see Qatar and Turkey, these two important countries, they are primary state backers of Muslim Brotherhood. Remember that. So that means their stand is against America's. China defends crackdown in Xinjiang. You see crackdown on Muslims, Uyghurs, Muslims groups. That is going on in America. It is under much criticism by humanitarian bodies and now under UN's criticism also. And now China says that we are gonna defend that criticism of us, and it is about our security issues, and we will manage this situation according to us, because maybe there are many scrutinies, but the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang said China was willing to discuss human rights issues with all parties on basis of equality and mutual respect. But at the same time, we firmly oppose any interference in China's internal affairs. So they may ask you about this issue of Xinjiang province, these Uyghur Muslim groups, where they are located, and all these surrounding countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. What are their issues? Because they are located across the border. Okay. Next, a very interesting news of Yeti or the Bigfoot. Indian Army expedition team, mountaineering team, they have found some evidences, some video and photo evidences. They have that around 1 foot footprint we have found in Makalu base camp region. Makalu is a very important peak in the Himalayas region in Nepal, and they have gone there for some expedition, and they have found these evidences. You see, in 19th century it was a very famous phenomena for the Britishers, and they said that some Bigfoot means the shape and size is huge. It's an ape-like man, or an only ape we may say. We cannot say what is that, but it's a snowman, and it's around 10 to 15 feet tall, and he has big foots, and it can be dangerous because it in the folklores of Nepal. It is many time appearing. Okay. Next, about the TB, tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculi is the bacteria. It's a highly contagious disease. TB is there for the lungs. It may be pulmonary TB. It may be extra pulmonary TB. TB means outside the lungs. It may be glands TB. It may be a bone TB. So there are many forms, and bacteria is the reason. But the issue is of the MDR TB, multi-drug resistant TB, and the reason is the ignorant population of poor India, where people stop treatment in between, and these bacteria are becoming much more resistant, and they are developing into multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Okay, and it is the biggest killer among the contagious disease or the communicable disease. You can see the number. We have created a strategy till 2025 that we are going to eliminate TB from India, but this is nearly an impossible goal, and we need warlike steps today to end TB from the region. Otherwise it is not possible. You see the scary numbers here. In West Bengal, more than 4,000 people died in 4 years. In UP, around 3,900 people. In Andhra Pradesh, more than 2,000 people. So these are scary and big numbers. And you see, in Sikkim, the density is very high. 66 people per lakh population, they died. So this is really a scary number. And if these kind of trends are there, and we have a plan till 2025, so how we are going to achieve that? And already the situation is very bad. Inequality is rising. The unhygienic condition with the poor people, that is rising. They are becoming more and more poor. Jobs are lost. So how they are going to manage their situation, manage these awareness and education issues? India need warlike efforts that the way we applied them for polio disease, we need to apply them for TB also, because it is killing many people now, and it has taken a different version as of MDR TB, XDR TB. XDR is extensively drug resistant TB. That is the very dangerous form. Now the questions find their answers, and these important details, additional details you should look for. Thanks a lot. Keep watching, and you will get the PDF here on this group. Thanks a lot.